and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's not planning to extend a pause on tariffs and explains his administration will soon notify other countries. South Korea's top trade negotiator returned after his week-long trip to Washington for the first trade talks under the new Lee administration. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog says the United States strikes on Iran's nuclear sites fell short of causing total damage, and that Tehran could be enriching uranium in a matter of months. Squid Game Season 3, which was released on Friday, ranked first in the Netflix TV show category in 93 countries around the world, a day after it was unveiled. As the tariff pause deadline set by President Donald Trump looms, the U.S. leader is now hinting that there will not be an extension beyond July 9th, when the negotiating period for countries expires. Our Kim Bo-kyung starts us off.
With just over a week to go before the 90-day extension on tariffs ends, President Donald Trump said he does not expect a further extension and said his administration will soon send notifications to countries.
But we're going to be sending letters out starting pretty soon. What we're going to do is we're going to send, and we're going to say, congratulations, we're allowing you to shop in the United States of America. You're going to pay a 25% tariff or a 35% or a 50% or 10%.
The U.S. president was speaking in an interview with Fox News, which was taped Friday and broadcast Sunday. His words suggest that a reciprocal tariff of up to 50% could be unilaterally imposed, while certain countries will have a basic tariff of 10% imposed on them. He mentioned Japan as well, saying a letter could be sent to Tokyo. Trump emphasized that it is unfair that Japan does not import many U.S. cars while the U.S. imports millions of Japanese cars. When it was put to him that American car manufacturers do not want Japanese and Korean car companies to face lower tariffs than they do, he said that would not happen, adding that U.S. car makers are too busy selling cars in America to even worry about it. Meanwhile, South Korea's top trade negotiator Yo Han-gu, who returned on Sunday from a week-long trip to Washington for the first trade talks under the new Lee administration, said a certain level of trust has been built to accelerate negotiations. According to Yo, after he met U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Washington again showed interest in Korea's participation in the Alaska LNG project.
Under the new administration, a channel for conducting negotiations with the U.S. has now been established. As for the Alaska project, the U.S. has continued to show strong interest and hopes that Korea will participate.
He added that Seoul will seek the most suitable approach for the country's national interest while closely monitoring the political and economic developments in the U.S. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog says Iran could be enriching uranium again in a matter of months. The comments contradict U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks that Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back decades after U.S. attacks. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran could begin uranium enrichment again soon, despite the recent U.S. bombardment of its nuclear facilities. That's according to Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, in a CBS News interview on Saturday. Grossi said that Iran has retained the capacity to resume parts of its nuclear program sooner than many expected, saying that the country could be enriching uranium in a matter of months. That contradicts U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated claims that Iran's nuclear ambitions had been set back decades following a U.S. bombing mission on June 22nd. Trump said that the attack, dubbed Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterated Iran's underground enrichment facilities. However, Grossi believes some are still standing. He also raised concerns over the location of an estimated 408.6 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. Grossi says while some may have been destroyed by the U.S. attacks, some of the uranium could have been moved. Meanwhile, in a Fox News interview aired on Sunday, Trump said he may lift sanctions on Iran if they demonstrate peaceful behavior and cooperate with Washington. The U.S. president said if Iran is not going to do any more harm, he would take the sanctions off. He stressed that adding sanctions relief would make a big difference for Tehran. Trump also rejected claims that Iran moved the enriched uranium before the U.S. strikes, citing the material's weight and logistical challenges. 이승재, Arirang News.
The Lee Jae-myung administration is further taking shape with the presidential office unveiling nominations for 6 cabinet ministers on Sunday. The picks will round out President Lee's teams on the economic and judicial front lines. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
The second round of President Lee Jae-myung's cabinet picks was based on, as the presidential office puts it, expertise and innovation. On Sunday, veteran bureaucrat Koo Yoon-chul was named finance minister. He previously served as the ministry's second vice minister, budget director, and head of the Office for Government Policy Coordination.
Koo is considered the right person to chart a path for Korea's growth with deep expertise in public finances and overall policy making.
Ruling Democratic Party lawmaker Chung Sung-ho has been selected as Justice Minister, a position central to delivering on President Lee's campaign pledge to reform the prosecutor's office. Chung is known for his broad understanding of judicial reform, built over 5 terms in the National Assembly. Fellow DP lawmaker Yoon Ho-jung has been chosen to lead the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, another key post in the administration's efforts to reshape the prosecution system. The plan is to review the separation of the prosecution's investigative and indictment powers by creating a new agency within the ministry to oversee investigations. Other nominees include Lee Jin-suk, former president of Chungnam National University as education minister, Kim Jong-kwan, president of Tusan Enerbility as Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy, and Chung Eun-kyung, former commissioner of the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, as health minister. This leaves only the land and culture minister posts yet to be named. For the 2 vacant senior secretary posts at the top office, Chun Sung-hwan will serve as senior secretary for public engagement and social cohesion. The position has been renamed from senior secretary for civil and social agenda to highlight the president's focus on building national unity.
John has played many roles, from civic activism to serving as the head of public institutions and as a local government official, working to bring the quiet, often overlooked voices in our society into policy making.
Prosecutor-turned-lawyer Bong Wook has been appointed Senior Secretary for Civil Affairs, a role expected to serve as the control tower for the prosecution reform initiative. Lee's initial pick, Oh Kwang-soo, withdrew over allegations of receiving loans under other people's names. Also announced were several vice ministerial appointments, including Lee Dong-soo and Kim Ho-hong as deputy directors of the National Intelligence Service, as well as Lee Jin-soo as vice justice minister. So among Sunday's announcements, the minister nominees will face confirmation hearings at the National Assembly, though their appointments will be decided by the president. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
So as we heard, the IAEA chief says it's clear that the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear sites caused severe but not total damage. For more on this and the situation in the Middle East, we're joined by Professor Buaman Gura, Professor of Middle Eastern Studies at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Gura, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So there seems to be different assessments regarding the impact of the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear sites. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, actually, it's very interesting what's happening right now. There are lots of speculations and there are lots of, I would say, misinformation also floating in the air. We are in a highly volatile situation right now when it comes to the next steps, or whether the reaction of U.S. or Iran or Israel. I think what we should be targeting is to see what Netanyahu is going to do, because it's clear that Trump is not going into several or more strikes against Iran again, or more offense against Iran again. He's trying to bargain his way with Iran and trying to make Iran come to the table to sit for negotiations. Iran, I don't think they are in a good situation also to have more problems at this stage. So Netanyahu is the key player right now in the Middle East, and we have to look at and see what will happen to him in the next few, I think, days or weeks even. But I anticipate maybe some cyber strikes, some covert actions happening in Iran. But let's wait and see.
Right, so you just said we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. But do you think the ceasefire will continue to hold? Is the war between Israel and Iran really over?
Yes, well, we can definitely say this is only a pause, and not there is a peace happening. This is not the case. We have a pause. All the players in the Middle East right now, they have very high bargain and very high stakes at this stage. Again, Israel is the clear player. Israel is so far the initiator of many things happening in the Middle East. I think Netanyahu is trying to, really make what he said he will do 2 years ago, that he is trying to reshape the Middle East. And he's actually right now reshaping the Middle East. Whether it's good or bad, we have to wait and see still. But the ceasefire will, I think, for the next few weeks, it will try to remain, but still we have to see if Netanyahu have any sudden moves that can endanger the very fragile peace or very fragile pause that we have right now.
I see. And Israel, Iran, and the United States all claim to have won this war, but who really gained what from this conflict, do you think?
That's a great question. This is a very peculiar situation. Everybody's claiming victory. For U.S., of course, it was not. It goes on with the same direction that U.S. wanted to do to make Iran incapable of developing a nuclear weapon. For Israel, is the same. But for Iran, I would say it's a little bit confusing, at least for me. The claim that they have won because Israel was not able to do all the agenda is something that's very peculiar. I don't think this is a win for Iran, because although Iran can still, develop its nuclear capabilities within months or years, but it's definitely not a victory for Iran. So I would say the clear winner here I would say Israel and Gulf countries. Definitely, they won a lot from this, conflict in the Middle East.
You see, and President Trump said American and Iranian officials will talk soon, but Iran's foreign minister recently said there are no such plans. Why are their statements at odds, and will Iran return to nuclear talks with the United States?
Well, there are two explanations here. The first explanation is that this is Trump's way. Trump is trying his best to, pressure Iran into sitting with him, into having a deal. This is what Trump is always thinking about making a deal. So this is a very good explanation. I think that Trump is trying to tell them, we're here, we're ready, let's try to make it again. However, it's hard because Trump himself, he was the one who decided not to remain at the nuclear deal that was happening at Obama's time. So it's maybe for Iran, they have to think twice about this offer. And another way is to say, to tell, or for Iran, is that Iran is doing actually some negotiations through some back channel doorway, like for instance, Oman mediated negotiations, but still up to now, it's not clear for the public. So we will know about it, I'm sure about this in the next few days or weeks, definitely.
Right, and how will the Israel-Iran conflict affect the broader Middle East, including the war in Gaza?
That's a great question. Of course, we have to wait and see. What's happening right now is that even when we talk about Iran and talk about its links in the Middle East, like Hezbollah and its arms in the Middle East, Hezbollah and Hamas and all this, all of the links are now in a very weakened position. And we have seen in the last 3 days how Israel is now targeting top Hamas leaders and Hamas capabilities is now in a very bad situation. So I think what will happen right now is that Hamas will try, I mean, rationally thinking, but of course, I mean, rationally thinking in the Middle East might be something that's very hard to do. But rationally thinking is that Hamas will try its best to get a deal and to finish the situation that they are now facing, because they cannot continue with this situation right now. For Hezbollah, also, we have now some high-stakes negotiations in Lebanon. U.S. is sending its envoy to Lebanon to have negotiations, and they are developing a step-by-step policy towards Lebanon. So I think we will have to wait with the Middle East and see what will happen in the next few days or weeks. But definitely something big is coming. Definitely, by all means.
Right, we'll have to see how it goes. All right, Professor Gura, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
President Lee Jae-myung will meet with leading figures in the cultural sector on Monday to discuss ways to promote Korea as a global cultural powerhouse. Invited to the presidential office in Yongsan are 5 prominent artists, including musical writer Park Chun-hyu, who wrote Tony Award-winning Maybe Happy Ending, soprano Cho Soo-mi, and ballerino Park Yun-jae. The top office says the president will be listening to their voices on ways to support artists and their activities, as well as ways to promote overseas K-art. The newly released 3rd season of the popular Netflix series Squid Game has topped the OTT platform charts in 93 countries within a day of its release. According to Flix Patrol, a global OTT ranking site, on Saturday, Squid Game Season 3, which was released on Friday, ranked 1st in the Netflix TV show category in 93 countries. With 10 points given for every country a show ranks 1st, the South Korean drama series earned 930 points. First released in 2021, the show became the most popular series in Netflix history. A talented teenage composer is seeking to blur the boundaries between traditional Korean musical instruments and contemporary musical compositions. Our Ehannes has a story.
19-year-old classical music composer Hanurij has unveiled his first traditional Korean music piece. He won the Bartók World Competition in Hungary when he was just 18. This young talent has also written a commissioned piece for pianist Lee Myun-chan, the youngest ever winner of the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition at just 18 years old in 2022. Now Lee has entered a completely new territory by composing his first piece for Korean Traditional Orchestra, a bold step that bridges tradition and modernity and breaks down the walls between Korean and Western music. The opportunity came when conductor Choi Soo-yeol, currently serving as the principal guest conductor of the Seoul Metropolitan Traditional Orchestra, invited Lee to write a piece. Choi describes the Korean Traditional Orchestra as a branch of contemporary music, a special genre that allows us to express the present through ancient instruments. Ehannes's debut in the genre came to life through the Seoul Metropolitan Traditional Orchestra's concert, filling the Sejong Center for the Performing Arts on Thursday night with the richly layered and resonant sounds of kugak, Korea's traditional music. In an interview with representatives from the Sejong Center, Lee described his piece as an attempt to construct an entirely different kind of sentence using the vocabulary of kugak, one that unfolds loosely, hazily, without clear peaks or dramatic climaxes. Ehannes, premiering his work Unselected Ambient Loops 2525, his debut composition for a Korean traditional orchestra, experimentally explores the unique tones and sonic possibilities of traditional instruments. Quoting him, in this piece the loop functions more like a memory, fading, warping, and merging into new contexts yet never entirely vanishing. As pianist Lee Myun-chan puts it, he is one of the most outstanding composers of our time. The future of the music world isn't just bright, it's dynamically unpredictable. Ehannes, Arirang News.
Now let's take a look at some stories from around the world with our Ji. Good morning, Ji.
Good morning, Anji.
So, Ji, let's begin with the aftermath of the recent fighting between Israel and Iran. Fill us in on this.
Right. Iran's judiciary says Israel's airstrike on Iran's Evin Prison last week had killed dozens. An official from Iran's judiciary said on Sunday that 71 people were killed in the Evin Prison strike on June 23rd, which included administrative staff, political detainees, and nearby residents. The strike targeted the prison's entrance and administrative areas, leaving visible damage to buildings and surrounding areas. Evin Prison is known for housing political prisoners, journalists, academics, and foreign nationals. Some detainees were relocated after the attack. France, whose citizens are also held there, said the strike endangered foreign nationals and demanded proof of their safety. The June 23rd attack came a day before the ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Israel's defense ministry had said it was attacking regime targets and government repression bodies in the heart of Tehran. Tensions in Serbia escalated over the weekend as anti-government protesters clashed violently with riot police in Belgrade as they called for snap elections and an end to President Aleksandar Vučić's 12-year rule. Tens of thousands of people gathered after months of nationwide anti-corruption and student-led demonstrations, with protesters hurling flares and rocks at riot police stationed around government buildings and elsewhere. Police responded with pepper spray and forcefully broke up groups in multiple locations. Several dozen protesters were detained, while at least 6 officers sustained injuries during the confrontations. Opposition activists and students have intensified their campaign, demanding early parliamentary elections and accountability following the deadly Novi Sad railway station canopy collapse last November that killed 16 people. Protesters blame corruption for the disaster. Serbian President Vučić denounced the clashes, saying protesters were attempting to topple Serbia but failed. An intense heat wave continues in southern Europe, with countries issuing health warnings amid rising temperatures. Spain is currently experiencing the worst of the heat, with record-high temperatures reaching the mid-40s Celsius in Seville and neighboring areas. A new record for June of 46 degrees was set on Saturday in the town of El Granado. Daytime and nighttime temperatures are expected to remain high through at least July 1st. Portugal and southern France are also experiencing record-high temperatures of nearly 43 degrees, prompting wildfire alerts and health advisories. Italy, the UK, and Germany are also under heat and health alerts. Southern regions are expected to continue to see intense heat into early July. Beijing showcased the world's first 3-on-3 soccer match on Saturday, played by 4 teams of fully autonomous humanoid robots driven by AI. The robot players were equipped with optical cameras and sensors that detect the ball from up to 20 meters away with over 90% accuracy. The game was structured into 2 10-minute halves, featuring a deep reinforcement learning AI that made real-time decisions on passing, shooting, running, and strategy without any human control. Robots were able to recover from falls and display dynamic movement. Organizers said the event showcased a real-world test of robot endurance, agility, and AI-driven technology.
Hope the heat didn't keep you awake last night. The muggy air lingered overnight, with Seoul recording on its 4th tropical night in June since records began. A tropical night was also seen in places like Gangneung and Daegu. In fact, the scorching heat will continue today, with heat wave alerts remaining in place for most parts of Korea. Expect scattered showers this afternoon in the capital area and Gangwon-do, with 5 to 20 millimeters in the forecast, along with thunderstorms. So the central region will be a bit cloudy, while the southern region see more sunshine. UV rays in Busan and Ulsan could reach the highest level, so stay safe. And by this afternoon, Seoul, Chuncheon, Busan will be reaching up to 30 degrees Celsius, Daegu hotter at 35 degrees. Looking ahead, scattered showers are also expected tomorrow, and the hot weather is forecast to continue for the time being, with monsoon rain taking a break this week. Please stay safe and hydrated in this intense heat.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.